Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 14th day of October 2024. Welcome to our show today. I hope everybody had a good weekend. We had a really productive weekend this weekend, so that's always makes me happy. You know, I like to work. I'm not a play girl. I'm a work girl, and it was a lot of fun this weekend. Everybody's doing really well. We found Chris. Chris finally answered his phone, and he was dead center in the hurricane, and now he's finally got his power back on. So he will be on this morning at 10 o'clock with Christina Holbrook from Thought Criminals, as well as I think Melissa Friesel is going to join us. This morning, we're going to start right out with Vicky Davis with the Technocratic Tyranny and Technocratic Communism. I'm finding this really, really interesting. And I decided we're just going to dive into this on Monday morning and start the brains moving quickly and learn the things that perhaps are not in the headline news. Because I don't know about you guys, but I am so done with this headline nonsense and fake stream media. It's a waste of time. Keeps our heads going like this. And the people that are buying into some of this fake news that is out there are missing the real issues behind it. I think that we're going to find out that nobody knows exactly what's going on. Okay, anybody that really knows is not talking. So I think it's a really important thing to keep a watchful eye, keep our eyes on God, know that He's in control. It's going to be okay, but we need to be a little careful who we're watching and who we're listening to. Morning, Vicky. How you doing?
Good morning. Fine, thank you.
Hey, I'm waiting for your avatar here. It didn't come through. Do you have an avatar?
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Oh, okay. So that's what let me check this out. I think you have to put it up on your side, actually. Let's see.
Oh.
Can you import it?
Let's see.
See, guys, this is how it works here. We just make things up as we go. We're gonna do what Jonathan Brader does. Just making it up on the fly here. What's that?
Oh, yeah, it does look like.
Oh, that's cute. I like that. That's cute.
Okay.
Okay, I can see it. Nobody else can. So if we can't get it this week, we'll get it next week. So how are you and how was your weekend?
It was fine. It was good. I spent the weekend re-looking at subjects that I've done before, and the one that I have been focused on is the general and complete disarmament of the United Nations or the United States. That was an initiative of John F. Kennedy, and legislation was put through the Congress, and it passed, to disarm our country. Sound like a great idea?
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They voted on it, and Kennedy signed it. And in a speech that he gave, I was just looking for the article. I had it up here, but I have so many windows open,
I thought I think this is really good because you've got like the actual information here from the Kennedy Presidential Library. So put that up a minute.
Yeah, I always go to the best source because when I first started researching, all I ever heard from anybody, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, when especially like with the importing of H-1Bs to take American jobs, and then it was the mass migration from Mexico that was going on, and the North American Union that they were working on. Everything was just a conspiracy theory. So I thought, well, all right, you SOBs, I'll give you enough evidence. Now I have enough evidence of everything. I could bury people in it.
Yeah, so. and I think that this is where we were talking this morning, and And I hate to be this way, but you wake up, and I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say the words that I really want to say, but there are words that I really want to say. And watch how easily everyone is being led astray, and we're missing, because even on, people think that if they stay on the right side, that are conservative, that they are going to be getting the news. But the problem is we have spin doctors on both sides that are basically glossing over the truth that's out there. Now, we're learning how to question reality, which I think that's a really good thing. But I know a lot of people get real frustrated with me because I will not take sides. I will look at the information, but I'm not going to sit here and take a side just because people want me to take a side on things, because there's a lot of propaganda coming from both sides. Case in point, somebody brought up a sob story about Gateway Pundit. And I said, I don't know. I look at Gateway Pundit too, and I made one of their big articles last week with one of the lawsuits that I'm involved in. But they were the ones that basically called me billionaire Donna Brandenburg, which is one of the most damning and damaging statements that was made during my campaign. I had an attorney tell me from Florida, say, you will never recover from the damage that was done to you by Gateway Pundit. There are a lot of sources out there, and I just want to tell everybody, you're going to have to really be careful who you listen to, because a lot of this stuff is to entertain the village idiots and keep them busy. And both sides are playing people right now, so it's really is an important time not to get too entrenched in what we believe to be true, because we want it to be true. We want to see things agree with our the way we frame the world, instead of truth is truth. And we may be completely off base on things, but we can keep searching and honing that purview in until we've got some of this nonsense cut out. And I think that's what I like the best about the stuff that you post, going back to your point, that you go back to the actual sources. And quite honestly, I mean, I'm going to just say it's to keep us out of dumb fuck land. And that's where a whole bunch of people are sitting full time, is in dumb fuck land. And the right can lead you astray just as easily or more easily than the left, because of our alliances and our propensity to have to dive into idolatry, and idolizing our points of view, idolizing people because we like them, and that sort of thing. And that all of those things need to die on the vine, and just look at the information we have, keeping our eyes solidly on where God's leading us, not what our not just on things that agree with us.
Yeah. So, well,
how's that?
In my profession, I learned to always track the problem down to the source, because if you try to fix something in mid-process, if you don't go back to the source of the problem, you'll just be creating bigger problems. You might think you fixed it, but you really didn't. And so, and I think that was my training, and
I think a lot of people think they're being helpful, and I get that. We all want to help. Anybody who's got a good heart out there is truly trying their best to try to help this situation. But a great deal of discernment is really necessary in all this, and ask a question. There was an article that was given to me, and I had a bunch of people say, will you please ask General Flynn to confirm this? I'm like, well, first of all, just so everybody knows, I do not ask people with security clearances any questions. I just don't do it. Because if someone has a security clearance like General Flynn, who is in fact someone I consider a friend, I would never disrespect him and ask him a question like that. If he would want me to know, he would say so. Okay. And if you do ask somebody like General Flynn or somebody in that position, to uphold something that you've seen, you could be putting him at risk. And I refuse to do that. So the point being is, if you see something and you're curious about it, you better dig yourself and find out, because that's the way we're supposed to be doing things anyway, is to doing our own research and going to these source documents like you do. I think you're just an extraordinary researcher. You're amazing. I have never seen so much information in one place. I would say that Jonathan Cagle and you are my top dogs with just pure and total bomb-proof research going to the source. Right now, one of the things that keeps coming up, and I think this is real interesting. I'm going to bring this up a minute just for a quick look-see here. Anonymous Conservative bring things up. I do listen to some of that, but it's with quite a bit of vetting. And right now, Tim Walz is in front and center on almost every conservative blog, whatever, out there. And as a person who is a potential pedophile, people are coming forward and saying that he was a pedophile, that he abused them and such. And I'm like, okay, I don't like Tim Walz. I'm going to say that right now from what I've seen. Not my favorite kind of guy. And he's standing with Kamala Harris, who is absolutely disqualified from being president of the United States by law. It's a legal thing. But while the spin doctors are spinning and I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, I think that there might be something to watch here in these documents. There might be something to be concerned about. But we're looking at people who are saying things which deserves an actual investigation. The stuff that is being dropped here appears to be kind of concerning. It appears to be concerning, but I think that this is what's being said here is approximately 7 to 10 days after my email to the VP of the United States, putting her on notice that Tim Walz brought a child to an Indigo Girls concert. The story was dropped. I immediately knew what was happening. They were trying to get out in front of this story. The story confirms what I've been told by the individual who claimed abuse. This is when I really started digging. Okay, so, but we're still in the research part of this. We're not at the end to say that this has actually happened. And everybody could have egg on their face in a large way if this proves to be false, and will discredit everyone who took the clickbait and decided to run with this. Back to what I was saying. You have actual research that you put out and source documents, which is why I absolutely love what you've been doing.
Yeah, the women that make claims of abuse, that occurred 20 years ago, 5, they make me sick.
Me too.
I can't stand that, because men are they're vulnerable in that regard, and the way that the media treats it, it's like the woman, no matter how obviously unreliable she is, it's treated as if it has credibility.
Well, it's kind of like, I hate to say this, but I'm going to make a funny analogy here. I hope everybody laughs about this, but it's like looking at all the gun owners and saying that you're a threat because you have a gun by the wacko with the wackadoodles there that want to disarm us, right? You have a gun, so therefore you're a dangerous criminal just by holding a gun. Well, you can look at somebody like Tim Walz and say, well, he has the equipment. And so therefore assuming that men, because real men actually have the equipment, that they could be a danger to society, says the feminazis, right? And then being able to accuse anyone without any checks and balances of being accused of rape or whatever it is, just because they have the equipment, is kind of horrible. And quite honestly, I believe that any woman that accuses a man of rape and cannot prove it needs to be charged for the crime she accused him of. or not charged for the crime, but be subject to the penalty of the crime that they're alleging.
Yeah,
So
I
if a
agree.
woman accuses a
Because
man of rape, then whatever sentence that crime holds should. Oh, there you go. Your avatar up now. That's cool. And whatever
how
crime.
did that get on there?
I don't know. It just kind of like popped up. So anyhow,
Yeah.
whatever crime she accuses the male of being guilty of and cannot prove it, and all of a sudden you find out that this is just a hit piece on somebody because maybe she was scorned or had her feelings hurt or something, she should be subject to the penalty for the false allegation that she alleged against another human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, well, it's just so unfair. It's like taking advantage of a child, or, not that men are children, but they have no defense. They have none. And so it's really taking advantage of somebody who is vulnerable, and who knows, the woman may have um, instigated whatever occurred, and probably did. Men think that they're usually the ones that you know initiate things, but that's really not always true. It's not true a
Oh,
lot.
we could go there in a large way, but I really think that there is just a crazy amount of psychopathic women who should be classified as predators. I mean, there are so many female predators out there. It's frightening. And I'm sorry, but it is a concern, and I think it's something we should talk about. I used to tell my sons this all the time. I'm like, if you go out with somebody you don't know, or if you go out on a date or you do something like that, you're stupid, because you have no idea who you are alone with, and that person could say something that was absolutely not true, and you would be without defense.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
way more scared for my boys because my daughter could whip their tail, right? The boys are way more, the men are way more at risk than women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people need to understand that we are in a war. This is a war. And so when a woman does that, targets a man, like that woman that targeted Trump,
Jean
said
Carroll.
something happened in what was that store in
Was it Berg?
Manhattan?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was Bergdorf.
Bergdorf. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bergdorf.
something happened 20 years later. That should be struck from the record, and she should be charged for that because there is no proof. And when you listen to her talk, I was like, my opinion of it is, I was like, straight up, are you kidding me? I could never take this woman seriously. And I think she is, in my opinion, a completely despicable individual when she talked about her crazy, and I mean crazy, sexual fantasies.
She did that? I didn't
Yes.
hear that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It got into crazy world real quick there. And but you know what? I hate to say this, and I'm not saying this about Jean Carroll, but I'm saying this about women in general. Throw a whore the money, and they're going to lie their tail off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it is because they don't have the integrity. They are predators.
Yeah, I think the word integrity has been stricken from our dictionary. We don't have that no such thing anymore, except for very few people. And well, that's because we are at war. That's, I have to keep thinking that, because this is not a shooting war. It's not a military war. It's not a rioting in the street war. This is an information war. It's intellectual war. And so, uh, we have to look at everything through the lens of this kind of warfare. And none of us were born knowing about it. I didn't know about it. until I started engaging, trying to figure out what the truth was. And there were so many lies, so many deceptions. Our government, in fact, that's why I was working on general and complete disarmament, because basically our foreign policy establishment runs our country. I think our Congress is just a bunch of empty suits. They put on a puppet show for us, but the real power is in the State Department.
Yeah, they're told what to say. And if you ever watch any of the politicians talk, they can't, as soon as somebody asks a question off the script, they choke. Totally. They stay with the script. They do their 3 little points that they have that they know they're going to talk about. And as soon as they're done with the script and everybody does a yay, rah, 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 because you said what we want to hear, mm-hmm. Then but they won't answer actual hard questions because they don't know. And it's not on their script. So we've got a whole bunch of actors out there, and that's pretty much it. Not performers, not workers, actors.
Yeah. Well, when that really finally sunk into my thick skull was when I was watching Trey Gowdy during the Benghazi hearings. He was so great, just going after people in government, Hillary Clinton, and, getting to the bottom of what was going on. As soon as the hearings were over, Trey Gowdy, he just resigns, goes to work for a news outfit, and nothing ever happened. Nothing. And so when they usually pick a congressperson to be the lead bulldog, going after the witnesses or whatever. But then once the hearings are over, that's it. End of story.
It's enough to shut the conservatives up because they want to see those people pay for what they did. And so the emotional quotient kicks in and the brain clicks off for the conservatives. I'm gonna tell you, I was really excited about Trey Gowdy when he stepped up and he started talking to. I was like, whoa, this is one of the first people that actually started going after people. But then, like you said too, it was kind of like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And I think we're all in that boat where we get sucked into these things. And then all of a sudden, there's never a time where any of us know exactly what's going on, but we're picking through it and we're getting better at it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed recently when Obama, I guess, or maybe it was early in this presidency, Biden, but Jamie Raskin, do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
He did a series of about 7 or 8 hearings on domestic violence, white domestic violence. And I wrote an article and I got the links and the title of the hearings, so that I could go back and refer to those or rewatch them. Well, a guy named Comer is the chairman of the committee at this point, and there are about 4 of those hearings that are missing, which means that somebody went through and deleted those, and they left a few in there. But so it's the Republicans too. The chairman would have had to approve those deletions from the video archive of the hearings. So I think one of these days I'm going to have to either write an email or call the committee's secretary or their office and say, I'd really like to have those hearings back, put them back,
If they haven't already scrubbed and deleted them or manipulated them in some way. That's another concern we have right now, is that that, and this is why I go on live, because nobody can say it was photoshopped. I mean, it is what it is. We're going to make mistakes. But it is going to have, it will stand as a record. And, and there's like, we're out on like, I don't know how many channels at this point in time, but we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 plus channels that I'm out on, probably 9 channels that we're out on. And it's live. And so it's archived live. And so if we make a mistake, unlike Gateway Pundit, who will not retract their mistakes, I'll retract it if I see something and go, wait a minute, I got led down a rabbit hole here that was a rabbit hole to hell. It's not true. Or there's more information that came up and I've got some questions about this. Let's not take this in hook, line, and sinker. And I think that's what we're all doing full time, is we're having to switch through that. But I'm afraid that even if they bring things back at this point in time, they're so good at manipulating things. How do we know that it's the original?
Yeah, that's true. Unless you're watching it live and you can see, but yeah, they're so good at modifying videos. It's kind of, you just have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, the deep fakes, they can make your voice sound like anything. They can make your voice sound like anything. They can fake within 3 seconds. They have your voice captured. And I mean, they can do that with way more accuracy, with even longer amounts of audio. So like, we've just got to be really careful. I would be an easy one to do a deep fake on, because I've got so much video out there to copy what I've said. But the reality is because I'm live, we could go, just a minute, let's just go back and look at this, because it's all archived in so many different places that you could start picking out the disparities of if I actually said it or not.
Yeah, well, the last several times I've called my bank, they've wanted to get a voice recording of me, and I say no.
Ooh, that's
don't want. Yeah, I don't want them to take a voice recording, because, as you say, they can fake a voice. So, yeah, no, don't want that.
I think a lot of the videos that we're seeing of President Trump right now, I think a lot of them are deep fakes, or they are CGI. A lot of them. If you really look at them, I think a lot of them CGI. How in the world does this guy get younger all the time?
Yeah, I'd like to know that trick.
And how is a guy that's almost, how old is he now? Is almost 80 years old?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that he can go to 3-4 rallies in a day and have the
stamina? I don't know,
I mean, that's one of those things that just common sense, we should be asking those questions.
I did see him at one appearance where he was absolutely exhausted. He showed it and he sounded it. And it was a mistake, really, for him to do that appearance, because it was clear he was exhausted.
I love him. In my opinion, he's the greatest president we have ever had in the history of the United States. I think he's the only one that stood up for we the people. He set us up for tax reform, which should have, we got to go back to pre-16th Amendment to get it right. They ruined our taxation structure in the 1800s with the 16th Amendment. And he set us up for tax reform. He set us up for all kinds of amazing things.
Well, the same guy that has worked on our trade policy is the same guy who sponsored the 16th Amendment, and I believe he did the 17th Amendment also, which the 17th Amendment, that's the one that made the senators, it detached them from the states. And so
let's explain that a minute, because it was the state reps that determined who the senators were, not by the vote of the people.
That's right, because the senators were supposed to represent the state, not the people. We had the members of Congress, the House of Representatives, to represent the people, and the senators were supposed to represent the states. Well, when they made them be elected at large by the public, they broke the checks and balances in our Constitution. And they just made the senator a super empowered congressman. And so basically, they made them free agents to be able to vote on all these treasonous trade agreements, all the treasonous policies, that the foreign policy, the Secretary of State came up with. So that's why we're in such a mess, because the senators can vote for their own interests, their own personal interests. They don't owe anything to the people of their state.
Yeah,
So,
it's disturbing. So which article would you like me to bring up here that you put in the private chat? And I just got to tell everybody, you really need to check out what Vicky's done. It's just totally inspiring and amazing.
yeah. Well, it's the one, the general and complete disarmament, because that, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see I have a speech of John F. Kennedy. When he signed that, and basically it was a promise to the UN that we were going to disarm, all of this world peace crap that they talk about. This is when it started. So the plan was for the UN to be a world governing organization from the beginning. Now, that's a diagram. When I figured out that diagram there,
Mm-hmm.
when I figured out that the way that they operate is that the State Department negotiates with foreign countries. In particular, I'm talking about the ones like Mexico, the OAS countries. Okay, they negotiate agreements, and then those agreements, the State Department boomerangs them back to the United States, and they go through the Legislative Affairs Department, which is the interface between the State Department and Congress, and they write legislation according to what the State Department negotiated. Okay, in
And
this
then they hand
particular,
it to Congress and tell them what to do.
that's exactly right. It's really the foreign policy establishment that runs our country. It's not the members of Congress. They're just a bunch. Congress is just a bunch of empty suits, for the most part, at this point. But what this was development programs. Lyndon Johnson actually put through the legislation for this, but it's what started the whole economic development system. They weren't doing it for us. They did it as a function of foreign policy, going through the OAS to get the agreement, and then they boomerang it back to the United States. So you've got international to national policy boomerang.
It's a global crime syndicate is what it is, and they're running the nation. Because if the people in Congress or the legislature, whether it's state or federal, actually were doing their jobs, we would see a lot different motion in this country. They basically run their mouths, but they don't seem to do a thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. This morning when I was putting this together, I found what was it, a speech or a statement by Jimmy Carter from 1977. And what it was about is giving trade adjustment assistance for trade injured shoe manufacturers, because they started allowing imports of shoes from foreign countries. And so they were basically using our tax money to pay off the shoe manufacturers for the business that they lost because the State Department made an agreement with some country to allow massive imports of shoes. Now,
And
how did
taking
that?
the subsidy shut up the shoemakers enough to not fight it.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right. And he said in this, he says, the Economic Development Administration of the Commerce Department is gearing up to contact all firms in the shoe industry about the program for trade adjustment assistance to accelerate the certification process for companies eligible for assistance. So, see, they steal your business right out from under you. Then they make you sign up for a federal program and get qualified, which means you're now under the thumb of the federal government, in order to get the money that they owe you because you destroyed their business. I mean, it's so perverted, so that there is nothing in that benefits the American people.
In effect, it's giving the government itself ownership, just like the CCP. Oh my goodness, who would have gone there? Over all of the businesses that are out there. They
Yes.
regulate them. They tell you what you can do and what you can't do. They make all of these regulations, and now you got to pay for those regulations to have access to them, to even know what they're telling you have to do. You have to pay for them to inspect. You've got to go through all this rigmarole. So we see that in the housing industry. The tenants think that, we're going to get the landlord, but the tenants don't realize it's a pass through. You're going to be paying the bill on this.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it's all so twisted. It's upside down, from the way that our country should be running. They always talk about for the people, this, that, and the other. No, it isn't. Basically, our government is corrupt and crooked through all these international trade agreements, which they've bought off Congress for. That's why people go into Congress, with just average income or, maybe a little above, but they come out millionaires. How does that happen in government service unless there's corruption?
And lots of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one that I've been kind of working on, but not directly, is minerals. You know, um, there's something called split estate. Uh, a piece of land, usually people only think in terms of the surface, which is the surface rights. But under the surface are mineral rights, and it's called split estate rights. Well, these our government officials have been just robbing us blind, stealing property from ranchers and different people, so that they can take and sell the mineral rights,
I
which is
think
selling the ground from under your feet.
51% of the land, I got to think what it is, west of the I can't think the line now, but in the western United States is owned by the government. In the state of Michigan, they did it through the DNR, which, they did it through the DNR. It's got a new name now. It's like Eagle or something like that. And got to make it look patriotic while we're screwing the American population. So anyhow, they're in charge of 4.6 million acres here, including they have all the mineral rights. If they have all the mineral rights, why in the world are we paying any taxes? Because there's never enough for these people. I don't think that we've ever seen the receipts on any of these operations they have going on to clear cut the land. They are not about in any way, shape, or form protecting the environment. They're raping it. They are clear cutting the land. They are stealing our resources, and they could care less. They think it's all for them, and they don't care about us. But the DNR is a criminal organization. It should be abolished. Eagle should be abolished in the state of Michigan. They are thieves. They are criminals. They are rife with fraud. They can come on your land and take it, and you have no recourse with these people. They're way more powerful than anybody, I believe, really gets their arms around it in a criminal way.
Right. Well, that's because of the way that the WTO, the World Trade Organization, was set up. It was set up such that multinational corporations, if we prevent them from making money in our country, because of our environmental laws or whatever, any reason whatsoever, if they're prevented from doing business in the United States, they can sue and they'll win, because that's the way these multinational investment agreements are written. And
how do we get rid of them?
That's why you have the communist Chinese government buying businesses and property in the United States. I mean, who the hell would ever come up with that? Yeah, let a foreign country buy your country. I mean, WTF,
Right. I really, it boggles our minds, those of us who actually kind of understand the dynamics of what they did and what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, I think there should be an abolishment of any corporate ownership of land. I really do. Or it's got to be something where there's a high percentage of American ownership. And I don't mean American investments. I mean Americans. Let's cut this corporate crap right down to size, because that's really one of their biggest weapons of warfare against the United States. And then they just like pour the money into the politicians who, going back to the whores out there on the ground, that will take money for anything and sell us out.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing to watch for is holding companies, because that's the way they've chosen to launder money, and for countries to buy up U.S. assets is through holding companies, because a holding company is totally dark. You don't know who owns it. You don't know what they own, and so that's the way they can launder money through holding companies, such that the wife, the spouse, the child of a politician owns a holding company, and you could launder money through that, to get money to the politician. So, I mean, they should never have allowed that, because in 1935, there was a piece of legislation passed. It was called the Public Utility Holding Company Act. And what that did was that it prevented electric utility companies from spawning off holding companies and using electric utility dollars to fund these other companies, not necessarily related to. Well, you could see how they could take over the whole country with that. So they passed a law against electric utilities from owning holding companies. So what did they do in the modern context? They had holding companies buy utility companies. And so you have holding companies that now own our utility companies. And so the utility company can say, oh, well, we don't have any, we don't own any holding companies. No, that's because you're owned by a holding company. And that's something that should never have been allowed, and Congress should fix it. There should be full transparency of ownership. I don't give a damn if it's private equity or whether it's a public company. I don't care. I want full, if they're doing business in the United States and the amount that they're making is, say, over $1 million a year, I want to know who owns it and where they're located, you know?
I want to see how much foreign money is behind all of this stuff, because even the development here in Byron Township, they just approved, and this was absolutely criminal what the township board did here in Byron Township. There was only one that was a dissenting vote, and he agreed with me. I said, this is just like selling it off to China, because these developers, they're being funded by they're not from the area. And where's the money coming from? Every
Yeah.
single local community has got this going on where they're buying, and they're doing it through these quasi local developers to destroy your towns. And they are literally destroying it. And they've got these idiots, the village idiots in the seats, that look at that. And I know what they're doing. Friends, the people around them, they're getting contracts out of this. They're absolutely doing for favors for other people. And they sit there going, well, we're going to get sued if we just don't give in to them. Well, you know what? We're probably going to get sued by we the people for ignoring we the people. There was not one comment from any of the citizenry that was there at that meeting that was like just go ahead and give them the ability to do this. There were questions on drainage. There were all kinds of questions. They just rolled right past it and said, well, we think this is good for the community, and basically gave the entirety of the citizenry the middle finger in that room, and didn't listen to one concern. There were a couple of things that were asked for, like let's look into the drainage. We've got a problem here. And they just blew right through it. And Don Tilma sat right up there and said, well, the priority is development. I'm like, no, the priority is to serve we the people, not absolutely destroy our property values by high density housing with people that are going to damage the infrastructure and make us pay for it. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's, that those plans, the comprehensive plans, that's driven by the Economic Development Administration. And basically it's boilerplate. It doesn't matter if you live in Michigan or in Idaho or whatever. Those plans are boilerplate. And they just customize them, for the locality. It's disgusting.
It is. And then the village idiots that are sitting in the street, one of them said, well, I'm just a normal citizen when, I questioned him on something. And he's like, well, I'm just a normal citizen. Well, you signed up for the job. You should know your job. And if you don't, you're breaking the law. That ignorance is no excuse for it, right? But it's just really, it's really sad. And the nation has gotten so far out of whack and out of plumb that they are they sat there and they admitted having the state tell them what to do. We just do what the state tells us what to do. Wrong answer.
I've heard that from legislators too. We're just doing what the federal government tells us to do.
Yeah. Wrong answer, right? You want to
exactly.
bug them out like they're like on a talk show for dummies show or something like that, and buzz them out for the wrong, the absolutely wrong answer,
Okay, here I found it.
Okay.
Are
you putting it in the
chat? This a group of billionaires, and what they were doing, they were offering grants. Let me put this in the chat so you can see it.
I can bring it up then. I'm going to love seeing all these people in the township boards, the zoning boards, the township boards being sued into oblivion for their part in the communist takeover of the United States of America. We have 120 clerks in the state of Michigan that left the position and won't run for it. Probably the smartest ones on the planet right now, because I believe they all should be sued.
Yeah. Okay, there was, if you can believe this, I live in a small town in Idaho, but Warren Buffett and Michael Bloomberg, they were involved in our town. They got the town council to vote for an initiative uh, basically agreeing to resettle refugees for our town to become a welcoming town, which means a sanctuary city.
And the Village Idiots got money for it too, didn't they?
Oh, you bet they did. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one city council meeting I went to. There was a woman in there, and she was talking about this $60,000 grant she was going to get, you know. And once she wrote her report, um, you know, it was trying to justify becoming a welcoming city. So for $60,000, she sold out our town, our state, and our country.
Traitor, treason, execution after trial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for $60,000.
That's despicable, absolutely despicable. But you know, they worship that almighty dollar. That's, you know. This looks like a really good article. I'll put the links in the articles in my Telegram channel at Brandenburg number 4MI.
Yeah, because it's really, I don't know. I was just really shocked by this group of billionaires. Well, I don't think that Hispanic mayor, I don't think he's a billionaire, but I could be wrong. He had been a mayor, though. I forget what his name is.
You kind of have to, you know, they've got so many different ways of hiding it too. Like a lot of times they'll put it in family members' names, or they'll make up trusts or
Yes.
foundations. That's a big thing to look for when you're chasing down the money, is look for foundations, look for trusts and foundations. Dan Lope, who got an $18 million payoff for Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan, went to his wife, and there were a bunch of trusts that were set up through her. Now you tell me why somebody would get an $18 million a bonus.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was listening to a young guy do a news report, or I don't know what it was that he was doing, but he was talking about corporations and social responsibility. And I was thinking, you naive, dumb, you know, that's one of the dumb efferys, you know.
Yeah, he's in DF land.
Are in business to make money. And for the government to allow them to set up foundations on the side, basically the foundations that corporations fund, it's just getting a tax deduction for their public relations department. You know, a profit-making corporation exists to make money, period. End of story. They don't care about social responsibility or the environment or anything else. What they do is make money, and anything else is really just a fraud.
This is really interesting. I was listening to, I listen to a lot of spiritual things, and I've been listening to a Catholic priest who does exorcisms, Chad Ripperger. And I love this guy. I think he's amazing. And I listen to a lot of stuff on both sides, because I just want to know what's going on, and what people's opinions are and what they know, right? He was talking about the fact that demonic forces do not care. They don't care how you feel. They don't care about your best good. And the corporations kind of function the same way. There's no humanity in them. It's all about the money. These things are demonic, and they carry out demonic agendas. Every single one of them that I've ever seen, and how they move the money around within them is so evil. And what they use that money for is so evil. Normal people probably can't really even get their arms around it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the reason why I guess I can is because I worked as a consultant for corporations. And the consulting business is probably one of the most dirty and rotten businesses ever. But it's just about the money, period. And anybody who thinks otherwise is really delusional, or they're being bought off by the corporate money in order to promote the interests. I saw one piece of legislation going through the Idaho legislature when I was with the Idaho Eagle Forum, and we were monitoring the legislation. And there was one bill that came through that was proposing to make the fine for the first time drunk driving $10,000. And I researched the history of that. It came through Alex, but it was really sponsored by the American Bail Bonds Association.
Okay, hold on a minute. You just said something like really significant there. I just put out, Friar Chad Ripperger. So say that again. So what came through the bail bondsman?
The piece of legislation proposing a fine of $10,000 for a first-time drunk driving offense. Now, I don't have a problem with a fine for drunk driving, but $10,000 is excessive. That's excessive, unless they hurt somebody. But then that puts it in a different category. But, if you take a young person, they go out and, they've had a couple of beers or whatever. First time offense for that, $10,000, that could ruin their whole freaking life. So I'm not saying we should ignore drunk driving, but be reasonable about it. But the legislation was sponsored by the American Bail Bonds Association.
So yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that association. But point there too is that if somebody's out there, if you don't, I don't know. I got to think this one through. But a deterrent for saving lives of somebody going up there in DF land and killing somebody could.
Well, you've got
turn their life. I don't know, but
the way I look at it, a $500 fine or $1,000 fine, that's going to hurt somebody that's 20 years old or 21 years old. That's enough of a fine for a first offense for a lesson. As long as they didn't hurt anybody. We got
to think that one through because
you know what? I don't want to execute young people for making a mistake. It's like, we're talking about the age of dumb effery. Well, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, they are right at the heart of dumb fuckery. All right, there I said it. And so I don't want to destroy their life for a mistake when nobody got hurt,
Well,
because
there you go.
People learn lessons. And $1,000 fine for a 20-year-old, man, that's going to hurt. That hurts. $10,000 fine is beyond the pale. If we're going to do that, let's make it the death penalty for everything. You make a mistake, we'll just fucking hang you.
Well, there you go. The zero censorship BNN right now, I'm
sorry.
That's okay. No, that's
our society needs to let young people learn. Don't hurt them for their whole freaking life. But the way that our politicians are selling out to corporations, I'm I mean, the financial interest by American bail bonds, that's obvious.
That's kind of a funny thing that you bring up, because in the state of Michigan, there's two people that were in charge of the establishment Republican Party that were in the bail bondsmen business, and everybody in Michigan knows who I'm talking about. I don't even have to say their names right now, and brings up a lot of questions, such as, why would you register businesses under alternative spellings of their names? This is kind of stuff is happening all the time, and
Oh, that's interesting.
we really have to get a lot smarter. Yeah, it's like there were businesses registered under alternative spellings of names, and the FBI does that all the time. That's a tactic. So when we see people doing that, you better ask some questions. Why are they hiding? What are they hiding? Why are they hiding? Why did they do alternative spellings for their names? You can find out a lot about people through different public information, but you can find out even more if you're just sitting around with people in Spook World. Which is fun.
Yeah, and Nevada has some special exemptions also. Like, I think you don't have to give the name of the principals of the corporation. You can just register the name without saying who it belongs to.
Yeah, we have the businesses registered under Laura in Michigan have not only the names of the principals, but you can actually go and look through the principals and see what other associations they have there too, like China. You can find that out. There's a well-known attorney in the state of Michigan, conservative attorney, that's pulled the world over a lot of people's eyes, who has ties to China and other places such as, I don't know, say Rice University and that sort of thing. But that requires somebody with a little curiosity and a whole lot of stubborn, ornery, unwavering determination in their bones.
So. Well, that's interesting, because I was doing a research project with a friend in Oklahoma, and there was a business in Oklahoma where they rented the place, but nobody ever went there. There was no furniture in it was just an address. And so we were investigating it, and I found so many interesting things. Like one company that started in Canada, they started out as a beauty salon, hair, dealing with hair. They moved to the United States, and all of a sudden they're in the intelligence business. What is it, CSIR 4 or something like that? And then they were going, of course, for security contracts with the federal government.
Oh, this is a great segue.
How do you go from a beauty salon to being a national security company in the intelligence business?
Well, by an amazing coincidence, Chris Deal's on, Frank Deal, and Chris will be able to tell us all about that. How you doing?
Oh, great. I think we should at least hang one. If we hang one, I think the rest, that'll level the playing field. Everybody else will be calling Uber, Lyft, taxis. I think that's a good idea, lady.
Well, I like the idea, except for the one. I want to hang them all.
Yeah, the problem that we
you
have,
don't want
though,
to do
is
that
that
it's just a drinking charge.
Yeah, it's the thing of it is that because we don't have any laws or a standard, and they are being moved around in a discretionary way, that's really where we got to the point we are right now, because all the criminals know none of it means anything. They can do whatever they want. They're not going to get prosecuted, and they'll find a way around it, and that there's no accountability. There's no expectation of doing the right thing in performance, and that I have a huge problem with that right there. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about this? What do you think about this thing going on and people getting into intelligence, Chris?
Do what? Oh, the Canadian people that came down.
Yeah.
Those intelligence people. Oh, those intelligence people were intelligence people all along. They didn't just open up a company. They've been doing that the whole time, only in Canada. So
Hmm.
when you bring in new criminals, I mean new intelligence people, you have to bring them in slowly and easily and sell the transfer in a good way so that everybody will keep sleeping on it. You know, but as for um, oh, I just got locked in, fixed in on that drunk driving thing on that. I just can't get over, the hanging of people. I just,
It's that dad.
you know,
It's that dad energy. You're ready to ground them for like life.
yes. And we have a sheriff judge down here in Florida. I'm in Florida right now, and we got a sheriff judge down here, and he says he's got a real good philosophy. He said, "You come down here to Florida," because the guy asked him. He says it was an interview that Judge Sheriff was in, Sheriff Judd was in, and the interviewer said, "Why don't you think that shooting this man 68 times was a little extensive? Just a little bit. I mean, but 68 times." And Sheriff Judd said, "I don't think it was enough." And he says, "Yeah, but why would you say that? I mean, he was dead probably 48 bullets ago." And the guy says, "You come down here in my county and you go ahead and you commit a crime, and then you steal one of my deputies' guns and you start shooting them at my deputies, I guarantee you're going to be shot a lot." 68 bullets. I asked the deputy myself, I said, "How come you didn't shoot him anymore?" He said, "Because I ran out of bullets." That's the kind of sheriff it should be in every single state,
I'm going to bring
in
this
my
up
opinion.
Yeah, I like
in
that.
your opinion.
In
So
my
Yeah,
opinion.
this is the article that I wrote about our research project of trying to figure out what that alleged technology company called Wave Technologies was doing, since they had an empty office.
well,
Nobody ever in or out.
that if you'll notice, there's a lot of housing developments around that the people in China are buying up the land, and what they're doing is you'll go into neighborhoods and you'll see cars parked on the street. They'll have just to stage if there's any, but the houses are all empty because their currency is dead. They're broke. It's worthless. So they're trying to put it into tangibles in order to have something, anything. And they'll buy houses and they never live in them. Why do you think we have these ghost cities?
Well,
Hey, Christina, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Good. So we might
How
as
are
well
you?
join the party here,
Right. All right. How are you?
Wonderful Monday morning, and we're just beating the hell out of everybody that's done the wrong thing already. And it's only 10:12.
Ain't
And
nothing
we've
wrong with
already
that.
hung one person.
There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Idaho had one of those subprime developments. They built a housing development with, I don't know, 160 houses in an area that had no infrastructure, no road to about 20 miles outside of Boise, and no economy there. It was just a small farm town. So why would you build 160 housing development where there was nothing there? No grocery stores, no nothing. I'm telling you.
You got to put the illegal aliens somewhere.
That's true. Yeah, and build nice houses for them.
Hmm.
While we have our citizens, living in parks and in wherever it is they find to live. So
Got to replace the Americans. We're second-class citizens right now, so we're gonna find a way to replace them. That's in the invasion of the United States and then have us fund it part of it. I think that's something we all need to wake up to. These people are criminals.
Yeah.
That is
Well,
true.
And
There's
the
a lot
people
of
bringing
criminals
them in
these
are no
days.
different than the people that are coming in. They're the same type of people.
yeah.
That's why they can come together on getting in here, the agreement of coming in. It's all
Well, I'm
criminal.
sure there's money under the table. When I first started reporting on refugee resettlement here in Idaho, we raised enough hell that our local newspaper brought in a State Department person to talk to us about it. I don't know what he thought he was going to do,
Change your
convince us
mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
refugee resettlement is good. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But he told in a meeting before the big public meeting, he told me it doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter at all. So it's really the State Department, and this is a small town, so you're bringing in 100 or whatever foreigners from places like Africa and just different places around the world to a small farm town in Idaho. I mean,
And you
what the
got to
hell?
ask, yourself, why would the State Department be involved in something like that?
Yeah. Well, my opinion, the State Department runs our country. It's not Congress. It's the State Department.
So I got a question to ask. What's your dog and cat population there?
I don't really see any loose dogs around.
Yeah, they're going to make cat and dog fritters out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that kitty fur makes some good earmuffs, That's terrible. I didn't say that. I love cats. I really do. I love cats.
We're all animal lovers, but these people that are bringing them in here think that we're not seeing what they're doing or what their intention is to bring people in who do not actually have the same mindset as what America has. They don't have it. Did you see the guy that was chopping up somebody's little loved one with a machete over there in Pennsylvania? This stuff's going on, guys. They don't think the way we do. Okay. It's okay in those cultures to eat whatever crawls around. All right. They don't like think about it the way that we do. And so, your little precious puffball there might end up being somebody's like main course at lunch.
Gives a whole new meaning to chicken fingers.
Oh. When that stuff went down in Springfield, Ohio, I did like a local search of like northern Kentucky, southwestern Indiana, and Ohio, and there are thousands, I do mean thousands, of pets that are missing. I didn't have a sample like to compare it to, that I'd taken like a year ago to see if that was some kind of influx of missing pets, but there are a lot of pets missing. My mom's cat, it's been gone for 6 weeks now. Just left, never came back. So
that makes me sad.
It is sad, but it is their, I can't speak on what their culture is. What I've learned is, that they do partake in that type of fuckery in their, country. But when you bring people over to our country and they don't align with the American culture, then you're going to have these problems. These are consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that, they would let in, I don't know, 10,000, 12,000. But now they're just massively invading our country. They are, it's a war on our culture.
Right.
They don't allow the people time enough to assimilate.
Or say, no, we don't want cat eaters and dog eaters in our country. And where in the hell is PETA now? Silent as the grave, right? Don't want to say a thing. And PETA is like nowhere to be found. I think they're like financing the cat and dog eaters.
I mean,
well, I do know that one of their people was caught with having an animal farm where they were starving the animals and making them look pathetic. Obviously, you know, raising their own actors for the commercials that tear at your heartstrings, you know.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I don't even listen to those people. I wouldn't give them a dime.
PETA sucks. All of these organizations suck.
Mhm.
And they're like filled with political operatives and or the village idiot children that you know think, oh yes, we want to do everything, but when it comes to they're not even looking at the reality behind this.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I think they're just a terrorist group myself.
I
You know,
agree.
that's my personal opinion.
I think a lot of the three-letter agencies are terrorist groups at this point. And when you,
I agree. They're certainly not working for the American people.
but we
Abolish
pay
all
them.
NGOs. Abolish all NGOs. Abolish all of them.
Yeah.
They need to go. They don't even have the right to exist. And Judge Cannon put it out there with Norton versus Shelby County on the judgment for President Trump. They don't even exist. You people are criminally, you're imposters, total imposters. They're pretending to be someone with authority.
Yeah. Well, another thing, you know, let them exist, but eliminate the tax exemption,
Right.
and they will just naturally go out of business.
No, I think we should just like abolish them. You know,
Yeah.
it's like there's no reason to give them another chance to screw with everybody again. They've already broken trust.
That's true.
They've committed crimes. They
Sure
need to be
have.
arrested.
Yeah, they've committed crimes. That's true. A lot of crimes. A lot of these agencies that are supposed to represent us that we pay for are like, you know, modern day mafias. The way that they exist, it's almost it's like, how did we get here? Did we have so much blind trust in our government that this is where we are? And to think like Kamala Harris is going to, you know, revamp our Department of Justice. Oh, you mean so the Department of Justice is going to work for her now instead of the American people? It's the same across the board.
Yeah.
Right.
I can
And
tell you it
it's
started with privatization during the Reagan administration. And then he had another commission on industrial policy. Well, then Bush took over, and he did so much stuff that was so seemingly innocuous until you see the ramifications later on. But then Clinton did a full redesign of government, reinvention of government. And that's basically when government employees became contracting agents, contracting out all of the functions of government that basically I consider it a coup d'etat in our government. Because if you're contracting out services like IT services and you're just turning over the function to a corporation, you almost can't get it back. It's really hard to get it back. And you need cooperation of the company that was just making a fortune on you. So there are reasons for everything, but you have to look at the administrative level of government to see what they did. They basically destroyed the government and privatized it. You know, it's
all
a
the
money-making
leaders,
operation at this point.
all the leaders of our three-letter agencies, if you will, are all advocates. I mean, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, oh,
Agents?
well, they're anarchists. They're advocates for what you see. You know, Hamas protesters, BLM, Antifa. They're all of them are advocates, and they're advocates for communism. And none of them, like the EPA, for example, they are all the money that is given to them, they plan to use for people like BLM, Antifa, the uh, uh, Hamas groups. They are actually funding, no, excuse me, we are funding these hate groups, which by the way, is domestic terrorism, hate groups. Um, we're funding it, but it's going through the agencies. They're funneling it through the agencies, and the agencies, the ones that are in charge of these agencies, EPA, agricultural department, I don't care what department you go to, because they're all corrupt. They're all, you know, they're not going to run FBI. They're not going to run what we've got right now. Not a one of them is innocent of corruption. They are
The
all
EPA is the
advocating
worst,
and
though, I think.
developing hate groups to go against us. Yes.
Mhm.
And none of them are operating the agencies as the agencies should be,
Yeah.
as they were created for.
Speaking of which, what's happening down there in Florida with the criminal agency FEMA, terrorist organization? The FEMA
Well,
terrorist organization that's going on in North Carolina and Florida.
I haven't seen one FEMA person in Sarasota.
Well, that's an
Sarasota was hit
improvement.
really hard. I just
That,
got my electric on last night. I haven't seen one FEMA person. This is all give the credit to Ron DeSantis, because he's the one that enacted all the state and local venues to get services provided to the people where the people need it the most.
well, it sounded
Um,
like they closed the dumps down around that whole area, and Ron DeSantis stepped in and said, "You are not going to close these things down, and force them to reopen again," which I thought was a good move. You know, I don't have many heroes, but I thought that was a good move.
yep, and there's a lot of nefarious bullshit going on down here in Florida too.
It's
So,
everywhere.
well, yeah, but you know, it's a shame to see that we have leaders that are for, hurting the people, instead of helping the people. I mean, what is so t- take Donna's crazy political ideas, like uh, help one another, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal. What kind of crazy ideals do you have, Donna?
I'm radical. I'm so radical.
You
I'm
are
bent
radical.
on
You are
doing the
radical.
right thing.
Listen, if the left heard me talk like that, they'd like, get that guy. Who's that guy? Hire him. Put him in one of our agencies.
Well, what they call radical, though, we call caring about the United States of America. And I say this all the time. You know, with President, especially with President Trump, let's pray he gets voted into office. That man cannot accomplish. I mean, he's got 4 years. He's going to have to make some really tough decisions. Until the people, as in we, the people, stand up and say this is enough, and get out of our comfortable world and put some boots on the ground. This stuff is as good as gone. You think the American government's going to swoop in and save us? No, they're the ones that put us in this position. But a lot of people are comfortable. They're just comfortable. Well, see where that gets you, a year from now.
Well,
Because
you know why they're doing that, though, right? Because they are disintegrating our government so that we will just be a territory of the North American Union. That's why they've flipped things around so that American patriots, normal American people, such as yourself and me and Donna, are the enemy now.
yes,
And all of these radical groups that are so un-American, why they are the preferred class, and refugees are the preferred class.
They're controllable.
And mass invaders from the South are preferred. And so they're stepping on our faces every day because they're taking our country apart.
And you
when
know
the
what?
country
I say
started,
that's
when our country started, the United States was the size of a state in population. That was an entire country, which is why going back to the 10th Amendment and breaking this thing apart a little bit and giving the rights to flip it over. I mean, they've got a top-down management style from the federal government, and everybody's just taking orders from these criminals. It totally needs to be broken up, decentralized, power back to the people, telling the elected public, the public functionaries what they want them to do, and they do it or they get removed.
So
I like that.
public? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so these are elected officials are public servants essentially because we pay them, right? So why is it that they're sitting on a shit ton of money and the rest of us out here are just struggling? It
I'll
doesn't
tell you
make a
why. I know why.
well.
I know
Tell me why.
Because we're allowing it. You see, if we would sit there and say, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not paying you any more taxes. You can kiss my ass. And that's every American. Fuck you. I'm not listening to your regulations. I'm going to work today and I'm going to produce this the way I want it to be produced, the way we, the American people, want it to be produced. If we go ahead and we say no for change instead of crawling on our hands and knees like a bitch and let ourselves be spanked, we need to get out there and we need to hang someone. No, we need.
Tell us how you
The
really
problem
feel.
is that in
We
order
need to
to do
just look. Like you said, we hired them, we elected them, we pay them. Okay, we don't have to pay them anymore. We don't have to listen to them anymore. They're fired. You're fired. Okay.
Like Donald
So
Trump
I don't
said.
give a shit. You can go to Congress and tie your tie and act like you're gonna write a bill that can't be passed till 2 a.m. I don't give a shit. I don't care what you pass. It ain't passed. I'm not listening. It's everything you're doing is unconstitutional. So why the hell are we glued to a TV going, well, I guess I got to pay more taxes today. Fuck more
Right.
taxes. No,
Well,
you owe me money. You owe
That's what
me
I
money.
said. We pay taxes
You know,
upon
I want my
taxes.
money back.
I was thinking of
I think
coming
we
up
should
with a
build.
list of cuts that they could cut out of the federal budget
Here, I'll start now.
before they raise anybody's taxes.
Right.
You know what we need? We need one honest governor or someone that will actually order. The only expense we need is a huge semi full of pens. And that person takes those pens and goes through all those pens, nullifying. Nope. That would be the greatest leader in the history of the United States. I hope Donald Trump, the rightful president of the United States, does that. Get a whole semi full of pens and start
Just deleting
nullification.
shit.
Wham! Right there. Hit it with nullification and be done with this nonsense. And then go after the criminals that worked within those organizations who were traitors, who committed treason, fraud, racketeering, coercion, and threat. And get them on a constant flow of C-130s. Pack them in like sardines. No 747s for these people. Right, a one-way trip to a nice sunny place, little
Like
warm, and that's it. I'm thinking like Gitmo. Off they go to Gitmo, never to return again.
Off with their heads.
I
Enjoy
say
your
give them a
flight and your vacation.
Give them a fighting chance, Donna. Let's just put parachutes on them and drop them off over Afghanistan.
Let them all fight each other.
With tutus and lights and all this stuff. Let's just make sure that they know who we're talking to.
The new Hamas ballerinas. Yeah, they'll love that.
Yeah, we should start with the pretender pedophiles and such. Make sure that they know exactly who they are. We thought we would send them to you guys because we know how much they're loved and how much they've been backing you there. So why don't we just let them go where they want to go? Let them be their heroes, their undeclared heroes. Parachute them in.
They'll shoot them all.
The pedophiles we should take to Gitmo. and we should do a televised hanging of each and every single one of them. You know, maybe like boxes, like we see right here. These little boxes, a hanging, a hanging, a hanging, a hanging, a hanging,
I
and
could go for that.
and just and no hoods. I want them. I want to see their faces.
Yeah, so
This
you
is
can't have a
what they
mask
did.
on made by Hollywood, and we're actually just hanging the wrong person here.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Got to
We,
identify.
we,
You guys are
you
totally
know,
sick of their shit. I can see that this morning. Today was just like it was today it ends, right?
we don't have very good leadership in this country. All the leaders are part of the political establishment, you know, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. But it's the Democrat and Republican Party, the collusion between them, that is keeping us in the position that we're at. And that's one great thing about Donald Trump, is that he's stepped out of that.
They all
And
hate him. He's hated by both sides.
Yeah, his rhetoric, his dialogue is saying, this is where we want to go. You know, we want to make America great again. That doesn't mean massively importing refugees from third world countries, or no, we want to focus on America. But in our states, all the political leaders, it's all within the context of the Democrat or Republican Party. And you never get anywhere. You're like a squirrel in one of those wheels, you know.
You know what it's like? It's like the 16-year-old pom-pom squad watching these people in the parties going, well, I like that person, or I like that person because they're just a very nice person.
And you can't sit at my table.
Right, because you don't agree with me that I like that person. So now we're enemies. This is like high school crap going on.
Exactly. And then it's like you have people in this government that just create so much conflict within the United States, and they are rewarded for that. It doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I think, and everyone, you know, you got the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. It's like, you don't think those effers are friends? Like, this is it's there's no separation in this power, and that's what really messed them up when Donald Trump came along, because that put the separation in the power. Like, it was all supposed to be Hillary Clinton. We'd be on our way to hell right now, to be honest, if Donald Trump didn't step up. And all he did was buy us some time, because these people are not going away unless we do something about them. It's always another ploy, another, you know, shady ass deal in the background. And America is just, I used to question myself, why do these other countries hate us? And then I educated myself, and I see what we have done. We are a bully. We play both sides of the field. If you talk about the United States of America, you don't put morals in that sentence with there, because as a it's not a representation of the people. It's a representation of our government. And what our government has done representing us is utterly disgusting. It's just disgusting at this point. But let me show you guys something. This morning on PM, it's a news outlet, there was a story, and this is the title of it. Tell me how you guys feel about this title. 21% of Gen Z Americans think Adolf Hitler had some
good ideas.
Good ideas.
I read that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It shows our propaganda, the propaganda of our youth. And who, look, I wish I looked like really young, like younger than I am, like where I could like slide into like a high school. And, you know, remember that movie where that lady became like a high school person, so that I could see what they're really teaching these motherfuckers. Because I got an old, I found a history book from, like, I guess when I was in school, and I was reading through it. So I wanted to compare it to a history book that they have right now, because I think they're deleting all of our history. They already deleted what we
no
knew.
question about it. Yeah.
It's crazy. And we see these
changing
things.
history.
Since you're going to mention
Textbooks
history,
are being printed in Saudi Arabia right now. So we don't even, you know, you have to go back about 30 years to find textbooks that have, and then you can see how they're altered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
And
what,
then
go
also-
back. I want you all to look up what's called the Mississippi bubble. And I want you to look at that. And I want you to read the whole thing. You will, it will awaken everybody. This is about the time of Louis XIV in France, when France was basically economically destroyed. They were on their last, I mean, they had about a week before everybody revolted. After King Louis died, they were in total debt, kind of like we are right now, and there was nothing to save them, except this guy comes in and he says,
John
"You
Law.
got, you got gold, right?" I said, "Yeah, we got plenty of gold." They said, "You give me the gold, and I'll go ahead and I'll make you debt for. I'll take care of your debt."
Law was a vision. Controller General of Law arrived in France with a grand plan to solve the country's financial problems.
Yeah.
Law was a vision. Controller General of Finances, one of the most powerful positions in the French government. In the early 1717, France was one of the world's. But his failure to deliver on his promises led to his downfall. The French monarchy lost credibility, so paved the way for the development of paper money, which would become the backbone of modern economies. The Mississippi bubble was a lesson.
Oh, all right. We're going to just shut you down and let's go over here a minute. Let's see if we can play this one. Sorry, guys. This is what happens when you're live. At least it's not, at least it's out there.
France was one of the world's most powerful nations, with a strong economy and a vast colonial empire. However, in 1715, King Louis XIV died, leaving behind a massive debt and a weakened monarchy. It was during this time that a Scottish financier by the name of John Law arrived in France with a grand plan to solve the country's financial problems. Law was a visionary and believed in the power of paper money. He founded the Banque Générale in 1716, which issued paper money that was backed by the country's gold.
Bad idea. Very, very bad idea.
Reserves. This move helped stabilize France's economy, and Law was quickly appointed as the Controller General of Finances, one of the most powerful positions in the French government. In 1717, Law founded the Compagnie d'Occident, which was granted a monopoly over all French trade with the Americas.
Okay, I'm going to avoid getting a YouTube strike right now. I'll put it in my Telegram channel and you can watch the video or look it up.
Yeah, you'll definitely love to see what the same thing that we're doing today. Well, how we did it is exactly the way they did it, and it's coming to an end the same way it came to an end there. You can put so much value on gold, but if you don't know what the value of the gold is, how can you possibly put a money value on it? And so when you go over to a point where people say, "Well, I want my gold back here. I'll give you the money that you gave me. Now give me my gold." But the gold he can't give you.
Right.
There then becomes a big problem.
Right.
And you're going to see that paper. Well, I'll just give you more paper to hold you off. You know,
shut
to
you up.
keep you going. So that you don't come after me and my gold.
Debt-based society. You're in a debt-based society.
And it sounds very, very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When
It's our
And-
fiat
and-
currency.
Yeah.
Right. And the many times we went to war because of the same situation,
Right.
So yeah.
Well, look how the United States is funded by treasury bonds. The
Right.
United States is funded by treasury bonds. Who buys the treasury bonds? Oh, the United States government. How do they do that? By printing more money. Well,
And by
that sounds like
taxing
a
us.
great idea. Doesn't that sound like a great idea?
And by
And
making
China-
us
well-
buy the money, pay for the money.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
for instance, China owns a large amount of the United States debt. So we're just as beneficial to them as they are to us. But at some point, we have to realize the depending on other countries the way that we do is a detriment to our country. It's like if I got to depend on you to pay my bills and then one day you go broke, all of a sudden my bills aren't getting paid. and I got to figure out how to pay them myself.
This is exactly why our country is, we call it selling out to China. Well, we sold out to China a long time ago. China's calling for their gold back.
Right.
So we can't give it to them. So what are we doing? Okay, good example. IMG Academy, which is a child, kind of like a big school for, they sell the parents. Hey, I'm going to take your kid. You say he's good at baseball. You give me $80,000 a year. We're going to put this kid in the IMG Academy. We're going to groom him to be a baseball player. And we think that with our teaching, we can get him into pro sports. Okay, yay, let's do that. So IMG Academy becomes full of rich kids that are going to play sports and go to school at the same time. Well, what they've done is they've sold IMG Academy to an investment firm out of Hong Kong, China. So now Hong Kong, China owns IMG Academy. And do you know that most of the parents' kids do not know that switch has taken place? They announced it on the radio or made it public for, I think, 2 days, and that's it. And the amount of times they may have announced it would have been maybe, I would say, 12 times in the 2 days. So, and I'm sure they didn't send out a memo to every single family member, hey, guess what? China owns your kid school now. No, what we're doing is we're giving our pieces of properties, pieces of businesses, et cetera. We're starting to pay China off now with America. And this is why you see our country uh, uh, basically turning against us, because they've agreed with China that, hey, screw America. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pay you America. How about that? How about that? You take America. And
That's essentially what it is. It looks like that was sold June 28th. It was finalized 2023 by BPEA. That looks, it's a private capital out of Asia. It's a private
yep.
capital Asia, formerly known as Bearing Private Equities Asia. BPEA is an Asian investment firm, and its headquarters is in Hong Kong. Huh.
Surprise,
Yeah.
surprise.
So just
Yeah.
sell us out. Sell us
And
out.
so think of how many we don't know about.
Right.
Well,
That's true.
I would love
That's
to
why
see.
I said we need transparency and ownership, and we need to outlaw holding companies.
We need to. What's that?
I found my favorite hat, Miss
Oh,
Donna.
that's cool. You got to have your favorite hat. That like makes a whole day perfect, right?
It just did.
That's just it.
It
So,
just did.
yeah, we need to hold Beijing Biden accountable for what they've done there, because I mean that it's just unbelievable. Oh,
There
you got
you go.
There you go.
Oh, I like that one. I want the dark MAGA hat. But it's like $47, and I'm a broco these days. I'm living in Bidenomics, so the chances of me getting that hat is slim to none.
Well, we can get you an investment firm out of Hong Kong that'll give you a loan.
Let's see here. I'll put my hat on here. Let's see.
There you go. Let's get a hee-haw.
It's hat day today, guys. Now I'm gonna have hat head. So you guys are funny.
45, 47.
I like that hat.
That's a great hat.
I work in mine though, so it's got spray all over. It's got paint all over the top, but that's okay. It's good old faithful, old Donald Trump, old faithful.
There
you go. Well, I just really appreciate all the information you guys bring forward. This is amazing. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about here? Because this is amazing, and I love going back to source documents and actually researching actual topics and then finding out what everybody else knows.
I think we should go back to hanging us.
I assume you guys already heard about Tim Walz and his extracurricular activities.
Well, yes,
with that boy?
I'm still on
Trying
the
to
fence
convince a
on
boy
that.
that he's a homosexual.
Yeah, I haven't
I'm,
Now,
made a
why would a
decision
man
yet
do
either.
that? Why would a man do that? Why would a man try to tell a little boy he's a homo?
For grooming.
Yeah, because he wants some of that.
Yeah. He wants a piece
Yeah.
of that, and that's disgusting.
Yep.
And
That's
we have to
exactly.
stop normalizing this shit like it's okay, because that's essentially what they're trying to do is
This is sick
normalize
shit.
pedophilia.
I started out today talking about that because I was bringing this up on the anonymous conservative who did a really good, let me see if I can find it here a minute, a really good write up on that. However, with this said, a lot of this that's coming out on this, I really believe needs to be put into a formal investigation because we're starting to collect information and we are the news now. I get it. However, I don't want to sit here with egg on my face, grabbing something that looks to be hearsay, like what happened with Jean Carroll, and all the libtards jumped on that one and said, "Oh, look, he's guilty. He's guilty." We need to make sure that when we say stuff like this or it's brought out, that somebody has been paid off, that there's an actual and I'm going to say it's suspicious as hell. I will agree with you that this is really concerning, and anytime a kid is involved in something like this, we've got to track it down to protect the children. But I want to see a formal investigation on that, not by the corrupt DOJ, not by the corrupt anything government. We need to have an investigation that has this thing locked down in an airtight case that can be prosecuted. And, you take one person like this down, he's going to start squealing like a little.
They eat their own.
They will eat their own, but you got to get the investigations, because right now he's put out there as a person for everybody to focus in on. I'm going to tell you what, you get one pedophile, you get one person in these pedophile networks like the Wonderland network and something, the whole bunch of them goes down. When we've got to be very careful not to focus on one person and direct all our attention at that. Get them in the squeeze and squeeze them until they start talking about everyone they know. This guy, if this is true, he wasn't acting by himself. This was being covered up. If this is true, it was being covered up by thousands of people.
Let me say this, Miss Donna.
Just like that football coach from Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing that kind of made me just really suspicious of this was the response of the Harris administration.
Yeah.
So the gentleman, he's showing you on recording where he's typing an email and he's sending it on over to the Harris administration. And then about a week later, you have a specific reporter, bought and paid for, I'm sure, that came out with this story kind of introducing it to the public ahead of time. So I was like, why would the Harris administration do that? Because it is what it is. So when I read this story, it touched on, it started out so and so Walls takes a kid to a concert. So why are you already starting the disinformation campaign before this gentleman even releases his evidence to the people? He gives you what he thinks is going on. You got to remember, this guy didn't ask for this evidence. Somebody came to him. And at first he was very skeptical. And I'm not forming an opinion on this yet, because I don't tend to do that without some evidence that I can, say like a formal investigation.
Right.
But it was very suspicious to me that before the evidence became public, the Harris administration was already starting the disinformation campaign.
I agree with you 100% that there's something really weird and fishy going on, but we need to sit back like adults and look at this and go, if he's guilty of this, there's going to be thousands of people tied up in this, including the other people
and
sitting
other
in
victims.
the seats. And other victims, and let's make this not a one-off to go after Tim Waltz. Let's get every one of these bastards and clean house.
Well, so not to change the subject real quick, but I'm sure you guys heard about the third assassination attempt of Donald Trump in Coachella, right? Well, it's very concerning to me when, well, first of all, the Trump administration has already came out and made a statement that that was not an attempted assassination on his life. And then when you start looking into the gentleman and you find out that he is working to expose the deep state, it kind of goes to false flag right away. But there are certain people that will believe that and run with that. And it happens all the time. As adults, we need to take a step back and look at the evidence, because until you do that, you're just running around like a fucking Democrat or a liberal, just believing anything that you're told.
Okay, you said something this morning that we were talking about before you guys got on, that the entirety of the United States, you know, probably sans a few anons out there that that will actually go in and do the research on it, the research networks, is believing all of these things are throwing out because we want sensational news. This is like the National Enquirer or the Star on steroids. And it's coming from both sides. So before we jump to conclusions and go, well, you know, Valiant Thor said this, that, and the other thing. Who the hell is this guy? I want to know. This is like watching Disneyland for dummies out there, because there's no receipts put on. I'm telling you, this is Disneyland for dummies, and it's going on both sides just because it's the next, you know, it's the next clickbait to see who's going to be gullible enough to believe this crap. And
because drama brings views, Miss Donna. Drama
exactly
brings views.
Yep, that is exactly what it is. And I can't stress enough that it's better to sit back a little bit and go, well, than be turned into an agent of theirs in the disinformation campaign, because there's so much of it. And anybody that really knows what's going on, they're saying nothing. And I mean nothing. I was given an article that was really interesting, and people were asking me, ask General Flynn what's going on here. And I'm like, I do not ask people with security clearances anything, because a good person, it's a great way to set a good person up. It's disrespectful as hell. And I would never use my friendship with anybody in order to satisfy, you know, the dummy category for wanting to know and be in the know, so that they can be out there disseminating all of this amazing information so that people can look at them and think, wow, they're really something. You know, they are not.
Well, why would I ask this? What we should do is delve in more to that person that said that, because that person that said that is the person that claimed that happened to him.
Right.
So this is the individual that said that, who's coming forth. So you're either going to see him suicided, or you're going to see him be represented by somebody. And there should be a continuation of this in the future. It doesn't always come out that fast, but that's how they release it. You have to also, just like you said, you have to sort of sit back and you have to put it in your mind and go, okay, make a mental note of it, and then just wait. If it comes back up again, where you have lawyers representing him and things like that, and it comes out more, then maybe take a look at it even deeper. But we have to also understand that a lot of our CIA goes to the media with drops, drama drops, I call them, and they feed both sides. That's how they do the wars, foreign wars. They'll go ahead and feed both sides. You know, and the winner is the winner. You know,
there was a guy, there was a
BlackRock and Vanguard.
There was a CIA app that was put on a guy that was able to capture transmissions, and the CIA arranged this guy's name was Richard Doty to babysit this guy. He pretended to be a friend. He pretended this has happened all over the place and all the time. They know what they're doing. They will send somebody as a distraction. I don't believe anybody anymore. I'm going to tell you that right now. If somebody comes to help, I'm sitting there going, we'll see who we're really talking to.
So what, you don't want me to come up now?
Yeah, that's okay. You're spooky, so there you go. But I mean, you know what I mean. It's like unless I know spooky, unless I know somebody really, really well, and I mean really well, I hold them at little bit of arm's length because this is going on. But look up Richard Doty and what he did. This guy that he ended up befriending ended up getting thrown in a mental institution, and he was destroyed. They destroyed him on giving this in the know information. They destroyed this person, and they wanted to see how crazy they could make this person go, how controllable they are.
This was the UFO guy, right?
Yeah. Yep. And the whether it was UFOs or whatever. I mean, I'm not sitting there watching, but you know what I mean. And you can look at people like you get into the conspiracy theories, but I'm going to tell you what, there is so much that they've hidden that we can look at it and go, interesting. This is interesting, but I'm not going to stake my entire life on this at all, because they're letting information through that they want us to see. They aren't giving us the truth. There's no two ways about it. And anybody that knows the truth is fighting for the right side. They're not going to say anything because then the bad guys know. So, and there's plenty of them to go around.
Think about it. Why would the media that's controlled by the left, owned by the left, by the communists, why would they allow something like that that's harmful to Waltz out? They don't let anything that's harmful to Biden or what's her name out, right? So what this is probably an attack campaign against Waltz to replace Waltz.
I was thinking
that move to replace Waltz.
A move to replace him. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
That's my spooky analysis.
We never know until the truth always comes to light, whether or not it's tomorrow or 10 years from now. At some point, the truth comes out. That's what you got to know about the truth. Someone will sit down and say, hey, let me clear this up. And maybe, on their deathbed. But I think we always, learn the truth. And I'm at the point where I just don't really believe anything. Like, I've got a map on my wall where I have tracked the narratives that have been planted over the United States all summer long by not only the Democrats, but the Republicans too. So whenever I hear anything, I always think, what is the motivation behind this? What are they trying to achieve? And what propaganda? Because essentially they're just dropping talking points for the left and the right. But what are they trying to achieve with this? And you really have to look at, what is their end game with this piece of information? And I agree with you. I think that this right now is to replace Tim Walz. I don't think that Tim Walz ended up being a good, as far as you compare him with JD Vance, it's like there's no fucking comparison at all. JD Vance seems to be composed, and we saw that in the debate where he's baiting Tim Walz, and Tim Walz looks like he's had several strokes and his face is all red. So it's like, what is the end game for the information that you are leaking to the public?
That's exactly it. And we've got to realize that we are being manipulated on every level, and you have to go behind these headlines and narratives if you want the truth, because they lie in their ever living behinds off to us, and it's both sides that are doing it. And so, we got to get out of this mental Disneyland for dummies, mentality. And, on this popularity thing, it's like, well, I like that person. Who do you follow? You know how many times I get asked that stupid question? Who do you follow? Well, I follow Jesus Christ. I follow God Almighty and Jesus Christ. That's who I follow. And the rest of it is kind of like in that gray area of sin soup with a whole bunch of people with bad intentions that have like less integrity than I don't know. What's that?
Less integrity than my little pinky nail.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, they will do anything. I mean, this is the network of whores out there that you give them $10 and they're willing to do anything. I actually had somebody tell me that, and I was kind of shocked at this because I never was in politics at all. I hated everybody. And until I was asked to run, I mean, literally, I hated everyone. I was like, no, I'm out of here. I wouldn't even gone with a cookie exchange politically. I'm like, what a waste of time. A bunch of liars, cheats, and thieves, right? And it's like the realities of how much deception there is in fifth generation warfare. You're dead center in the middle of it. The question right now is, are you going to stay in the mental Disneyland for dummies thing and believe all of these content creators that don't bring the receipts, that are not really educating you, that are just manipulating you so that you become a captured asset for them and are part of the problem?
Exactly. Being a content creator, I see that firsthand a lot. Like, I was recently in a situation where people chose to believe someone's assumptions about me. So I see it a lot in what I do. And you have to really separate yourself from all of the disinformation and all of the central, sensational stuff. Like, that's what people want to hear. They want and they tell you drama brings views, so they literally will imply misinformation or tell you, in a roundabout way, that this may be the case. And then what do you got? Then you got the fucking telephone game. This person says something here and it's like, do, 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 and before you know it, at the end of the line, they done told you a whole bunch of shit about yourself you had no fucking clue about. So
It's,
I'm like,
it's mental crack for idiots. It's what it is. It's like, this is like mental crack for idiots. When you sit there and follow all of these people that they're just like alleging all of this stuff, you look like an idiot. I'm just going to say that right now. It's like you look like a complete moron, an idiot. And people go into these manic representations of, what they believe because they know it, because they heard it. And it's like I'm kind of done with this. It was like being in the Anon world, and every time somebody did, and I'm not going to say the word because I'm going to get a community strike or something, but y'all know what I'm going to say. It's like when you try to put a date to something, and everybody I'm going to say it. So help me God, I'm going to say it right now. I was at a speaking engagement last week before, I don't remember now. And everybody's like, well, what's going to happen? What's the plan? Well, how is this going to, play out? And I'm like, what difference does it make? And the whole group looked at me and go, you don't think right. You don't think like us. And I'm like, thank God there is a God. Okay. There is a God. Right. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, what difference does it make? Because you know what? If God were going to come back, if Jesus were going to come back tomorrow, if the end of the world was tomorrow, if anything changed or didn't change or whatever, you should be doing the same thing. You should be doing the right thing. We need to be faithful until the end, no matter what. So why is it a life or death, or I'm going to lose my mind because I can't handle the mental Disney World for dummies anymore, and I just want to know the truth? The truth is, you know what? Anybody that knows is not talking. Anything that somebody that's talking that's not bringing receipts and questioning it is manipulating you. It's likely it's a CIA or the FBI or whatever. I mean, name an agency. They're probably all involved in this. Now, I can see them sitting there having their shots of whiskey at night and going, hey, what are we going to put out there on alternative media now to give these people mental crack, to keep them busy, where we're screwing the United States of America?
right. Well, we sell off America behind their backs.
Yep.
Here's an interesting tidbit. This has actually been going on since the Babylonian days. There has never been a time of non-corruption. And back in the 70s, I know a guy who was in a different world in New York at the time, in Queens. Well, one of his, he wasn't directly in the world, but he was because he lived in a family who was in mafia and all that. But him and his brother and their friends, they just grew up in this family. They would go to the uncle's house, for the Christmases and the holidays and things like that. And the uncle had two telephones, a red one and a green one. And when the red one would ring, the uncle would say, "Okay, everybody out of the house." Everybody had to literally get out of the house when that red one. They called it the bat phone. Okay, they made fun of it. The FBI had a line directly into one of the family's houses, and they would do work for the FBI. They would hit people and take out people for the FBI. And so the when you step out and you look at what's going on back then, the mafia was infiltrating what the government was doing. They were both doing the same thing to the American people. It's just that the mafia wasn't as dignified or wasn't as classy or cover upish. They were more overt. The mafia was more, they didn't give a shit. Who knew, you know? But the government had to wipe that out because that was a reflection, a mirror image of what the government was doing to the American people. So they had to go because they weren't keeping what they were doing as a secret. It was the same thing. There was no difference to what either one of them were doing to us.
I watched a documentary about that when the FBI got started and how the FBI was essentially working with I can't hear him. Oh, okay. I just got thrown off. I'm looking at two different screens. Anyways, so the FBI was essentially, what you said, working with the mafia. And I seen a whole, it's weird. I just seen that documentary. So it's amazing how things come out.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I just
There
seen
was
that
a
documentary
documentary
about a
on
week
it?
ago. Yeah, there's a
There
whole
was a
documentary.
documentary.
It's a series actually. I believe it's on Netflix. I'll get the name of it. We was just watching it like a week ago. So it's funny that you say that. That happens to me a lot. When I be doing investigations and someone will come out and say, they'll be talking about it a week later. I'm like, there's God for you.
Interesting.
Yeah, wow. That's wild. Yeah.
Well, they were involved in
That's interesting.
the CIA went to the mob to have them sell drugs in the United States because they needed to have something to fund their wars. So
Yep.
it was them that brought the drugs into this nation, and they went to Lucky Luciano and said, basically, you get the drugs out on the street, and they were working together for a long time. You want to know where the drugs are coming from? I'm going to tell you where it's coming from. It's coming from our own government.
Government.
Our government is bringing the drugs into here because our government is on the leash of this global crime syndicate, which is out to destroy good people who are naive, the naive of the world, and God bless them. I mean, there's some days I wish I could go back to 5 years old and think about the world as all cute and wonderful and puppies, but that's not what adults do. We grow up and we handle business. And it's not being done. We need a few more strong adults that are saying, we're done with this now. You've had your little fun, and now it's time for you to perhaps go where you can never hurt anybody else again.
Take your spanking and move on.
Well, I would say it should be a little more severe than that, but okay.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why we've had an open border for as long as we can remember, because we had to get the drugs in. We also have to get people in, certain people. It was for certain people. It wasn't for everybody, but it was for certain people that could bring in certain things. We've got tunnels going underground from Mexico into the United States that we don't know about. We got some that we do, but
that Eagle Pass is ridiculous. Have you seen the videos of it's all staged? Because you take that camera and you go a half mile on one side or the other. There's a 2-track right through it. So, but they got to have everybody crowded on that bridge for optics.
I did that when I was in Eagle Pass. It's crazy. So I got to take our border back in February of this year, and I went to Eagle Pass because we was 30 minutes out in Cumato. So and literally you see like this whole fence, and it's like all looks like we're doing some damn things, and you walk down the road about, I don't know, a fourth of a mile, and then the fence is ended. It's like, so why are we focusing on this right here where this fence is? All these people are coming in when you could walk right over here and there's nobody there, and just, walk right on into the United States.
Yep.
It's to build that crisis, that emotional mentality of the people, and they play on our emotions. And if you don't have the ability to stop and critically think, then you watch the news every day, something's fucking crumbling. I don't know how these people live like this. It's like I'd be hiding underneath my fucking desk if I believed an inkling of what the news said. It's just, it's so gross these days with
Oh,
the
yeah, but you know what? It's like too bad. Brandenburg is a little cold. She's like cold and to the point. Yeah, that's because I'm not going to get manipulated by a bunch of
Right, you're not gonna
village
gaslight
idiots.
me.
What's that?
You're not gonna gaslight me.
No, I'm not going to be manipulated by a bunch of village idiots to believe something that I know is absolutely wrong.
You
So,
are fired today, Miss Donna.
yeah, this is actually good to talk about this stuff because I'm so done with it. And then they make, getting made fun of for having a differing opinion. It's like you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to correct you. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that you're right. I will listen to anyone and go, oh, maybe we'll see. Bring me the receipts, and perhaps that is an issue. I don't know, but I think there's some really big ones that we can actually put our hands on, that we can absolutely say, well, this is exactly how they did it, and it could be criminally prosecuted. But we wouldn't want to go there because then something could actually get fixed, and we could actually criminally prosecute these people. It's like it seems like it's a distraction to me.
Frank's phone must have died.
Yeah. Well, he just got his power back on today, so he may be charged. So down in FEMA no-show land down there in Florida. So
I wouldn't want FEMA to show up either. For instance, when we did the Texas Panhandle, and they had it was like the government was taking, take all these supplies to this certain firehouse, right? And it was like, then that firehouse gave it to like certain people, but the people that were on the outside communities, the smaller communities, they didn't get shit. They got nothing. If it wasn't for us being down there, some of those small communities would have really been hurt. And every time I think about FEMA and the way that they do it, that comes as my example. Like, I seen it. Like I seen it with my own eyes. And I don't, it may not have been FEMA at the time, but it was our government, and that's how they represented themselves in that situation. You didn't give a shit about everyone. You gave a shit about what was being publicly watched, and what clip you could use on your fake news for the evening. And I was shocked that a lot of people really, and it's the same thing with North Carolina, a lot of people originally, the people did not know how bad it was during the Texas Panhandle wildfires. Just like originally, when the people in North Carolina started to speak out, a lot of people just had no clue, like no actual effing clue. And it shocks me. And I realize basic demographics get, different information fed to them for whatever reason that is. So if your news station is not reporting something and you're in the dark, you got to question why that is. What is their motivation not to tell you what the facts are that are going on? And don't stop at some local news station. And by all means, don't think that because you Google something and it's on the fucking internet, that means it's the truth. You have to take the time and do independent research. And another thing, I don't think the left recognizes facts and opinion pieces. Like you take an opinion piece of someone and you make it like it's a fact, and it's not. And then a lot of that on the platform I'm on is basically opinions being represented as facts, and it's delusional for me. It's like it's like living in fucking clown world at this point.
Yes, you got to understand when I saw all this supposed help coming to Sarasota and all this, and the boats, and the sheriff's riding the boats, and picking up people, and the guy walking with the Labrador over his head. You want to know how many disaster scenes I've seen that go to of the guy walking with a dog over his head? You'll find that at the Katrina one also. Uh, this is they're telling the people who do have power, who are not in this situation, oh, look what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, come here and you'll see what they're doing.
Right.
They ain't doing shit.
And it happens in
I just
every
got my electric
disaster.
yesterday, you know? I mean, Ron DeSantis can only do what he can do and mobilize so many. He's got the best state of emergency plan out there, and he knows how to execute it. I'm just going to put this part in. I like Ron DeSantis. JD Vance, he's a great debater. He can really show me how he can debate and twist words, but
Yeah.
he hasn't shown me what he can do.
Listen, in
Ron
Cincinnati.
DeSantis, Ron DeSantis says something and he does it. And I see what Ron DeSantis has done. I haven't seen anything that Biden and what's her name says that they've done. We've sent 10,000 National Guard down to Florida. I ain't seen one. I ain't seen none of them.
Did you
I'm in
hear about?
Sarasota, one of the hardest hit places. I haven't seen any National Guard.
So you guys heard about the story that Kamala Harris did the photo op with the C-17? How she loaded
C-17.
It's a plane, I guess.
You're right.
She loaded this plane in North Carolina with tons of supplies. And then she took some photos, and then the plane didn't go anywhere. So a National Guard in North Carolina came out and said that. And then they twisted it like, oh, the plane had mechanic problems. I bet you that plane didn't have no fucking mechanic problems if that dude never came out and said that was a photo op. So it's like, you got to.
Just like they tell us why they can't leave the runway.
Right,
We'll be down just a little bit, man. We got to get over.
Everything about the Harris campaign is propaganda and lies. Propaganda and lies. They're feeding you a story. I call it political fucking theater. And if you are dumb enough or your ego is not in check enough for you just to believe that shit, hook, line, and fucking sinker, then you go on about your day doing that. But don't expect me to fall in line with your dumbass bullshit because I'm more educated than that. You better back up and fucking regroup.
You know what Harris is producing? We see what Harris is. We see what Harris is. Period.
Yeah.
But that is no different than what Biden and the rest of them are. The problem is Harris is showing it. Harris is telling us exactly what our government is. That is the dumbed down version of what our government is. And you know what? Up till now, if people can't see that, if people can't go to a damn store and go, oh, this sucks. But I remember when Trump was president, it was like $5 less. If you can't figure that out, then there is no saving you. You need to get on the same bus with everybody, all the left and the communists, and you need to go down to Gitmo. Because you're look, back in the 60s and the 70s, if you so much spoke about communism on the street or handed out pamphlets like they did back in the 60s, when, the FBI would be at your house going, what the hell are you doing? But why were they doing that? Why were they acting like they were against them? Why was the FBI acting like
they were recruiting them? They were probably recruiting them.
They weren't recruiting them. They were playing the game. Oh, down with communism. Communism is bad. Just like they're doing now. Down with Russia. Russia is bad. China is good. Bullshit. China is bad. Russia, thank God they haven't invaded us yet.
Well, that's because I think that the reason Putin has invaded the United States, and I've said this before, is because he understands that the American people don't align with the government, and our government doesn't represent the American people. But I can't
Yep.
say that we actually know the truth about Russia, because we've been lied to for so long about our history. They tell us hate this person. Oh, this person is bad. You're a Russian agent, and I'm like, okay. When China is the one we need to worry about. But no, let's just let them buy our fucking land.
I would give you another one that you should think about right now, and that's the Dutch banking families and the families that you never hear about, except for I'm sorry, did I bring this up? Except for the state of Michigan. The Dutch banking family connections are connected to the Caribbean. They've got islands. They have all kinds of things there, and they're pretty much indistinguishable when you watch how they work from the intelligence agencies in, say, several different countries, because they're all working together. But
how about the boss?
Oh, you said it, didn't you?
Did I say it?
You said it out loud.
What are the oligarch families? I was asked that.
The
What
boss,
are the oligarch?
come get some. I don't give a shit.
You're demented.
I want them to come after me.
That's that fuck around and find out, huh?
Exactly. They'll find out. Look, I'll take two of them with me. I don't give a shit. I'll take two of them. And all I got to say is, I hope to God they love their job as much as I love my Second Amendment right. Because you're going to have to choose. You're going to live or die today when you go to work.
Well, I think the thing of it is that that's just it, is that they can't come after Americans. And that's why we have a Second Amendment, is to defend ourselves against them. It's not that we're provocateurs. It's not that we're coming for them. It's that they start coming for us. They're going to have a problem, because they're in the wrong. And that's all I have to say about that. It's a sad day. It's a sad day that we have to defend ourselves against a government that doesn't give a rat's rear end about us on any level. I personally would hate to see it go to a kinetic war in any way whatsoever. I think that the smart way to do it is the power of the pen. The power of the pen is more powerful than anything. But people have to be educated and willing to fight the fight in that arena. It's a tough fight. If you haven't been in it, we've been taught to be afraid of it. We've been taught to not go into that area, but we need to start fighting these people in the legal and lawful sense. The law is on our side. The law is absolutely on our side. And the day that this goes to a kinetic war is going to be the saddest day, because it ain't going to stop. And that's I feel like that's what they want us to do, is they want it to go to a kinetic war, because they will sit back and watch us fight each other. That's what they want.
And it's not going to work unless we do the things that we need to re-engineer what they did. They took God out of our schools. They're taking them out of our churches. They're attacking our churches. We need to put God back in our schools, back in our homes, back in Congress, back in all that. You don't see Congress hanging up the 10 Commandments going, we're going to fight back. So F them too, Right. Look, we as American people need to bring back God. They don't have the power to take God from us. Only we have the power to allow them to take God from us. We only have the power. We're the ones that allowed them to stop us from disciplining our children. And that was back in the Clintons' day. I remember when I was a firefighter in a EMT, I went to a call, and the lady was telling the son to go to his room. And he said, make me. He put his hands on his hips, make me. She said, you go to your room right now. He says, go ahead, hit me. I'll call the police. And the mom froze. The mom couldn't do anything.
Yeah, what do you do with that?
And you know me.
Call the police, buddy.
I didn't say anything. But
you better call the ambulance soon. Hope they
yeah. Well, I was the ambulance. I was the
Well,
ambulance.
you was the ambulance.
Yeah, I mean, so
Well, and I think too, I mean, listening
I
to
didn't.
this, it's like the frustration that everybody has and the absolute point of being sick of their shit has been reached to boiling point to the United States population. And it's kind of deserved. You know, it is deserved, but we got to get smart about how we fight them and not strike back with an emotional response. It's got to be smart.
There's the key.
And we have to be smart. We've got to get in there and talk, you know, and do the work that needs to be done to stop a kinetic. That's what they want. They want this to be a kinetic war.
Right.
They're going to sit back. They're going to be drinking their adrenochrome or whatever the heck they're shooting up with, and watching us kill each other, so that and then they're going to laugh about it because it won't ever touch them.
Go
I
ahead,
think
Frank.
that the definitely, but if you ever notice, the only time the government ever moved in our favor is when America stood up, every single one of them, and said, "No, this bullshit you're trying to pass, no, we're not going for it." Look at the alcohol ban way back in, what was that, the 20s or something like that?
Prohibition.
Prohibition.
Yeah, prohibition. All the Americans said no. We're not following your march. We're not banning alcohol. In fact, we're going to take it underground where you can't catch us. So the government looked at it like, well, hell, we don't have prisons all across the country that we can't imprison everybody. We need votes. So we're going to go ahead and make this a legal thing, and we're going to tax it, and we're going to go ahead and make money off of what they want, you know. And then that sparked everything else, the drugs, the everything else. You know, hey, we'll just tax it. We'll just tax it. You know, so
And I think getting the good information out there to people too, so that we wake the village idiots up a little bit and get them away from the mental Disneyland, you know, for dummy stuff that's going on out there, and actually educating them on what has gone on, how we got here, and how we back out of it. And all I got to say is, wham, nullification. We need to, you know, remove them. They have to be removed and prosecuted.
I want to read you guys a poem real quick. So this is from Chris Ann Hall.
I love Chris Ann Hall.
Yeah, so do I. This is called Sovereign Duty. Inside this, I guess one of her friends wrote a poem, a lady by the name of Judy Thacker, and it's called Liberty Whisper. Listen to this poem. It started as a whisper, like a soft and subtle breeze, a rustling of some branches, the fluttering of the leaves. Many barely noticed, swiftly went on about their day, tending to their business, hustling on their way. And when the remnant heard the distant words, they felt the warm wind blow. They paused and stopped and looked around, for far too few would know. The message, piercing and bittersweet, lingered heavy in the air, but the whisper only calls on those who really care to hear. The whisper was a warning, pleading with all men. Liberty is your gift from God, and tyranny's at hand. When the whisper traveled like a rushing wind, growing stronger every day, until many had heard the whisper and what it had to say. It called on man to take a stand, whatever be their fate. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. We will not live as slaves. The subtle breeze, the warm wind blew, the rushing new day wind. It is a force that stays the course, but we must trust in him. Liberty can't end here, it can't end now, though the final hour's near. We have the chance of circumstance to make our voices clear. We reject a revolution. We don't want violent change. We only want our Constitution, though we will not bow in chains.
Great way to look at this. Well,
Yeah.
and I think let's go ahead, and that's absolutely the perfect place to end this, and realize that if your emotions are being set off by anything out there, you're probably being manipulated. There is always a better way, and the better way is we really want it done peacefully, because if the shooting starts, It will never stop. We're going to be like downtown Beirut here, all over the United States of America. Now, there's sometimes that things have to be taken care of, but we have to be very careful. Follow the law. The law is on our side. And get in there and fight with all that you have. Stand. Do not bow to tyranny. But the first step is to, call God into any situation, and he'll lead us out of it. We seek God's will first, and he will lead us out of it. So let's say a prayer, because I've got some things to do today. I love you guys. This is a great show. I really love listening to you guys, because you guys get as hot about these objects or these subjects as I do. I mean, I'm just so done with this nonsense.
I start cussing when I get my mouth is like a sailor. I start cussing
Hey,
when I
Donna.
get.
Thank God you're on BNN. I don't censor. Oh, and where'd Chris go? See if he comes back in. Bet he got a call on his phone.
Yep.
So I'm going to start saying prayer. He'll come back in. Just wait. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for this day and the wonderful leading that you're giving us, that we're awake, that we are passionate for the freedoms that you've given us, and for standing for the rights of our brothers and sisters, fellow Americans, and all of humanity. We're not okay with how things are going right now. And we want this nation to go to a place where you intended it to be. You led the founding fathers, and I know you're going to be leading us out of this captivity from a tyrannical government. We ask that you would calm everyone's anxiety as well as anger at what's been done. We have the right. There's no two ways about it. It's a righteous anger over what's been done, of the mutilation, the massacre of children, and the lies, the theft, the coercion, all of it, the money laundering. We should be mad and furious that these people have done what they've done. But we should also look at ourselves and be a little bit upset with ourselves, because we let it happen. And we voted in these people who are village idiots, who stand for nothing, who will take the payments, who will do what they're told, who are not brave enough and strong enough, because they do not have you guiding them. And every time they say your name, it's heartbreaking, because it feels like they're just using your name in vain for garnering support and love and such. We ask that you would pour your spirit out in truth, in righteousness, and honor on this nation, and lead us out of this incredibly demonic, satanic system that we have been under for so long. I ask that you would give people encouragement, tell them what to do, keep the peace, and peacefully walk our way out of this if it is at all possible. We do not want to go into a kinetic war. We want to see the hearts and minds of Americans changed, that they care enough about what we have to fight and protect it in ways that would bring a peaceful existence with our neighbors. We don't have to agree with each other, but we do have to fight for each other's rights, the rights that you gave us. And we are willing to stand in the gap for those that don't know how to or can't defend themselves, and knowing that you are leading us, you are opening the doors, you are bringing this criminal network down. And I ask your favor, your blessings, and your guidance on every single person that's willing to step forward and fight for this nation. We ask that you would pour your spirit out on those in the FBI, the CIA, and our government, and truly show them, if they are on the wrong side, how to be repentant before you and be sorry for the lies, the murders, and all of this that they committed, because it is bare before you, and we are thankful for that. You've been a wonderful friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you. We love you so very much. Let everybody out there know that they're loved and that they can turn to you, and that you will help. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. That was beautiful.
Oh, here we go. There you go. You were sitting backstage. Back
I
comes
was praying
Chris.
with you.
I'm
That was nice.
I'm sure. Well, and that's a wonderful thing. It's like when you walk with God, you have peace in all situations. You don't go to crazy world. You stay centered. We're supposed to be the peace in the world and the light in the darkness. And, if Jesus had wanted to change the whole thing, he would have said, bam, twinkling of the eye, it would have been over. But for some reason, he has involved us in this little battle going on and giving us a way to stretch our wings a little bit, do the right thing, and help bring hope to people when they are, in fact, captured assets of this criminal organization that's satanic. I mean, let's just go right down to what it is. We're talking about pure and simple, a spiritual war, and you got to choose. It's either good or evil. If you're in the CIA, you're doing the right thing. I would like to see that. I don't believe it's hardly possible. Same thing with the FBI, or in the military or whatever. There's going to be a dividing between people, and it's people within organizations. It's going to be with citizens, because I'm going to say right now, I think anybody that votes early on election day, they're breaking the law. I don't care who tells you to vote on pre-vote. It says in the Constitution we have a day. Mm-hmm. Now let's just see what kind of an American and what kind of a standard you're willing to stand for, or are you willing to listen to somebody and win at all costs? You're going to follow the law. There is the dividing line right there.
I told everyone not to do that early voting, and my thinking of it was, you're doing early voting, you're telling them already how many votes they need. Yeah. So where if you just all show up,
point blank, they're asking you to break the law.
Yes.
And I think that this is a really great time to look at this and decide, are we going to trust God and do the right thing? He says to submit ourselves even to evil leaders, and but we can change that. But we have the ability to change that, and that's on us, right? But still, you have to follow the law. You're supposed to vote. Every single one of us needs to get off our behinds and get down there on election day. Right. I will not be voting early. I will not be breaking the law. I will not be doing something that is not stated in the Constitution. And I would like to encourage everybody else to follow suit, because there is so much manipulation going on out there. We don't really know exactly who's talking to us, but we can get it figured out. Read the law, know the law, and follow the law. And so there's no excuse for us. So with that said, guess what, guys? We're going to go to that part of the show, boys and girls, would go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has never not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to talk to the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about this. And I want to see him wearing cowboy boots, okay, when he does it. So with that said, everybody, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. If you do not have a good example, if somebody tells you to do the right or the wrong thing, be the example. If you don't have one, it's a personal choice. And you know what? The only judge you should be worried about right now is our Heavenly Father. That is it. You answer to Him alone. That's it.
How did you do that?
Simple. Yeah, I don't know.
My iPhone.
Oh, it's the iPhone thing?
Watch this. Bam. Do that thing. There it is.
There you go. Wonderful. You guys have a great day today, and be the light. Be the light in the darkness. Calm fears. Calm people down when things get crazy. It's not they don't have the right to do that, but you know what? Be the calm in the storm. That's what we are. We are the calm in the storm. And so have a great day. I'll be on tomorrow with lawful defense. The operative word is lawful defense. We don't need to turn into their craziness. We're supposed to be set apart, and that's okay, because we can win without playing the game like they are. And we're going to win it clean, neat, and wonderful, and it's going to be okay. Hey, stay online just a second, guys. And
remember, folks, just hang one. Just one.
You're funny.